I mean, I think home economics went out with my generation.
Right, it's very rare to find it being taught in the schools today,
Right.
and even if it is being taught, and I have witnessed classes here in Ontario, even if it is being taught, the kids are being taught to eat lots of carbohydrates and low animal fat. So they're eating, you know, the edible oils, they're eating soybean oil or cottonseed oil or corn oil, all the cheap, very damaging oils to the body.
What is tofu?
Tofu is bean curd. It's from soybeans.
That's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, thanks for calling in. Hi, Mark.
How you doing, Garth?
Good, how are you?
Good, sir.
Good, go ahead.
This, talk about mental health issues and stuff like that. You were saying see more and more people being, as I call them, chemicalized in a way with Prozac and other antidepressant drugs, antipsychotic drugs. When a person has that prescribed for them, do the doctors say, well, okay, in addition to these chemicals, which really they are to me, do they discuss diet or any other ways of controlling their issues, or and how long would they have to continue on these products? I do have a friend who does take Prozac, and he says that when he does, he feels great. So, and then of course you've got people say like schizophrenics that need their medication, and if they come off it, they can become very dangerous and harmful to themselves and to the public possibly. So, is this a situation where they need to take these drugs for, I don't know, for life or just for a certain length of time? But do doctors that prescribe this medication, do they just, say, well, let's just get into the, your matter of food and stuff like this, as you've been discussing?
Very few doctors know about the nutritional components or the biochemical components of mental illness. But if you were to look at the International Society for Orthomolecular Medicine, ISOM, out of Toronto, they will guide you to physicians here in Ontario or throughout Canada, actually the world for that matter, who are trained in helping people who are taking psychiatric drugs, who want to get off the drugs or want to merge off the drugs slowly. I mean, you have to be very qualified in order to get people off of these drugs. You can't just expect people to go off these drugs cold turkey. That's not a wise thing to do. And in cases where people have extreme psychiatric conditions, of course, or even orthomolecular doctors may not be able to get people off these drugs completely, but at least minimize the dose of these drugs because they realize the side effects. But the emphasis is always on nutrition and getting the biochemistry balanced naturally. So,
but you know what? What's really interesting. So the answer is some doctors may, most won't.
It really depends on their training.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can't paint them all with the same brush.
But the thing is before the Second World War, medical doctors were trained in nutrition. After the Second World War, nutritional training stopped. And my mandate, of course, is that the current system we have is unsustainable. And so in order to make our system more sustainable, we have no choice right now but to reintroduce nutrition into our medical schools.
So there's a bit of an answer for you, Mark.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Great, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Addictions, violence, 1 in 5 kids having some psychiatric variants, 20% of the population today. Violence, addiction, learning disabilities.
Depression, anxiety.
Well, this is far more serious than N1H1.
H1N1.
The swine thing they don't want me to talk about.
Right, and so there...
Is it H1N1?
H1N1, yeah. So yes, one virus is having this entire world into a frenzy right now.
Oh, let me stop there for a minute. And you said this. I want to be the deal buster on this one. Listen to this one. They tell you to beat up on a virus to use antibacterial soap.
I know.
To buy stocks in Purell or something,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
that's crazy. It wasn't until you told me that this. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're taking antibacterial soap
to go after
a virus, and a virus is not a bacteria.
That's right. So, I mean, people are wasting their money on antibacterial soaps, and they're also damaging the environment by using them, and potentially even compromising their own immune system because, these bacteria are, obviously, we need them to keep our immune system stimulated.
All right, so let's go back to this idea of where we actually have such a huge pandemic, really, I think, going on right now. Because I've seen kids. I mean, I've seen the kids. I've seen people that I think, have it all together, but all of a sudden they're losing it.
Right.
It's far more serious.
It's far more. Actually, our number one health problem today is addiction or substance abuse. That's crippling society. It's more pervasive. It's causing more deaths and disabilities than anything else.
When you say substance abuse, you don't just mean like marijuana and cocaine and drugs. You mean coffee, Caffeine, you mean other things
Well,
like that?
actually, our number one problem is our addiction to pharmaceutical drugs, whether it's OxyContin or, the painkillers are becoming more prevalent. They're killing more and more people every year because of addiction. Really, we're being sideswiped because a lot of people think that the substance abuse problems are coming from things like meth, heroin, and cocaine, when indeed the problems are coming from the psychiatric or the pharmaceutical industry itself. So that's what's really been on the rise over the last, for example, 30 years or so. The war on drugs has done nothing to solve the problem. If anything, the war on drugs has made the problem worse. We're not really addressing the real problem, and that is the pharmaceutical drugs. And so when we're starting to put children, even as young as 2 years old, on antipsychotic drugs, I mean, they're basically going to be hooked for life. They're not dealing with the fundamental underlying problem, which is malnutrition, and they're put on things like Risperdal or Seroquel, some sort of antipsychotic drug, and their entire lives are going to feel like a zombie. They're never going to feel whole or complete. So, we're really compromising our children from very, very young ages. We need to deal with the problem from the get-go, and that is to make sure that they're being properly nourished. And so what's happening is as adults, where people are, when you hear on the news that, we have to watch out for teens using drugs and so on and so forth, the real problem is coming from white middle-class America.
Canada.
And Canada. Middle-aged citizens and senior citizens are the drug addicts of today. They are highly, highly medicated. And not only are, they're taking street drugs, yes, in some cases, mostly as things like marijuana, but most predominantly the issue is coming from prescription drugs. And so as adults, we're sending a signal to our children that it's okay to alter our state of mind. And that's just not acceptable to me anymore because the problem has gotten so amplified.
Never before in the history of, I remember, and I see this with my grandparents, and maybe I can even see it now, is when people say, I need my medications. But the concoction of a medication taken with the other medications all together and then put into the biochemistry of the body, there has never been a study that would uniquely be able to do the predictability of what it would do in the body for each individual independently.
Right.
And yet they understand the side effect, but when you put them all together, what's the huge side effect? When we come back from break, let's talk a little bit more about how people can fix their broken brain, how they can start taking steps to do that, so that they can feel some encouragement. If they weren't depressed before, they probably are now. Stay with us, but maybe there is some encouragement here, but you're going to have to do something about it. Stay with us. First Take Live continues. Welcome back to First Take Live. So here it is. You want to catch up with Pam Killeen live before she goes nationwide and busting out with this book, which is soon to be released, actually, How to Fix a Broken Brain. She has an event coming up in London, Ontario, and here it is. Discover which foods and nutrients best support a healthy brain. Well, maybe if you knew that, you probably know how to start helping yourself, this is what it's all about. You can go to see her. Just go to www.pamkilleen.com